Good morning. Morgan O'Hara here today in for Charlie, and she is here to answer your legal questions. So if you have one, the number's on your screen. Call us right now. Free legal advice, 436-1212. Good to have you back in the studio.
Thank you for having me.
You and I were talking during the break about changing names, legally changing names for children, legally changing names for adults. As far as children go, if this is something that parents are thinking about doing, perhaps they've been remarried or the father figure isn't in their life or what have you, so many reasons. What do they have to do in order to go through that process to make it legal?
Well, normally you'd have to go through a court proceeding. If you've been through some sort of like divorce or been in a court action, oftentimes you can ask the court through that custody proceeding, paternity action or divorce action to change a child's name. If you've never been through that, often what you have to do is petition, basically file a petition to change your name with the court system. And you know, it gets kind of complicated because there's different ways you do it. If there's no father in the child's life, then you'd really have to give notice to anybody that might be objecting to the name change. Even for adults, you still have to go through a court proceeding. So, I mean, a lot of times it's a good idea to hire an attorney. Now, oftentimes women will want to change their name after they've been divorced, and they'll want to change their name sometimes back to their maiden name.
Right.
And normally that's very simple because you just go back through the divorce case and ask the court to change your name back to your maiden name.
So potentially you would not need an attorney then, or you would still possibly need an attorney to do that?
It'd be much, a lot of times you would not. It's a much simpler action because if you've already had a court proceeding and you've already gone through a divorce and let's say your divorce is done, but 5 years later you're like, oh, I don't want that name anymore. A lot of times then people, can just file a motion back through their divorce case to ask that the court change their name, and usually that's a very simple procedure. So.
And today, too, Morgan, we're following a case up in Hutchinson, a 15-year-old being tried as an adult. And we've heard stories in the news before about children as young as 10 and 12 being tried as an adult. As far as that's concerned, obviously circumstances are different for each case. Is that something, though, that we're seeing more of?
They're supposed to be taking it on a case-by-case basis, and then there's a procedure that they have to go through to have someone who's under 18 to be tried as an adult. There's a special hearing that they have to have. So normally they will have to go through that as well. But they're supposed to be looking on a case-by-case basis and the circumstances and facts surrounding that. But there's a special hearing that they would need to have have someone under 18 tried as an adult. Okay,
so we may just be hearing about these stories more often. It's not necessarily a trend.
Honestly, it may be, I think a lot of times we hear more about it now with how accessible the news is and things like that, that maybe it's heard more often, but I don't know the answer to that. So.
Okay, well, no, I just think it's important. It's a case-by-case basis. I know we were talking about it earlier this morning, and it's something that I think people have questions about that may not be always keeping up with the current trial.
Yes.
Well, thanks, Morgan. We don't have any calls today. I think, actually, our phones may be broken, so sorry if you're trying to get on the line. We're going to try to get that worked out, and we'll have Charlie or Morgan here back next Wednesday.